I call the Honourable Member Eugenie Shea.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Speaking on the third reading of the Crown Minerals Amendment Act 2013 Amendment Bill, the Green Party opposes this bill, and it is a very troubling bill, and there are a number of reasons for that. One of them is it's being pushed through under urgency with no scrutiny, no ability for the public to comment. Yes, I'm wearing a pink shirt. It was Pink Shirt Day yesterday. I'm a day late, and that's because we're still on Thursday. Mr Speaker, when we're dealing with bills under urgency, when there's no opportunity for the public to comment or for Select Committee to engage with the bill, we only have the collective intelligence of members of Parliament in this chamber. So it's been particularly disturbing that during the committee stages of the bill, we've had no government members standing up to defend the bill, to engage with the issues that the opposition has raised, and even more disturbing that the Minister in the chair never answered any of the questions that the opposition was asking. So when it is down to us, because the government has excluded others from engaging with this bill, we should engage. The opposition has and has flagged some very troubling aspects of the bill, but government members haven't during the committee stages. And that's very disturbing, Mr Chair. It's also disturbing because we didn't have a regulatory impact statement, apart from the one that Moana Maki held up, which was a series of black lines. And without a regulatory impact statement, there hasn't been an honest effort to explain the implications of the bill. So it's been left to the opposition to highlight the problems caused by Clause 14 and the way in which it extends the 5 criminal offences which were created by the Anadarko SOP to the Principal Act, and it extends those to the high seas. Now, without a regulatory impact statement, there's been no examination of how this clashes with our responsibilities under the Law of the Sea Convention, which New Zealand has signed up to, and what basis the government is purporting to establish new criminal offences in an area where we don't have the jurisdiction to do that. But because it hasn't gone to Select Committee, we haven't been able to engage with officials. This law that we're being passing today is potentially null and void if it overrides and doesn't implement our international obligations. Yet the Minister at no point rose to explain what he thought was the jurisdictional basis for doing that. And it's interesting, Mr Chair, that when you look at the comparable Australian legislation, which is the Offshore Petroleum and Greenhouse Gas Storage Act 2006, it provides for a 500-metre no-go zone around oil rigs and similar structures, but there's no provision in the Australian legislation for a no-go zone for vessels. That's obviously because they understand their requirements of the Law of the Sea Convention and the fact that that preserves freedom of navigation on the high seas. So why does the government feel that it has to go so far and potentially breach our international obligations when there are already numerous international instruments and the Maritime Transport Act which address this whole issue of safety of navigation and vessels? Why, Mr Speaker? It's because under this government, we've had a government which has morphed from being nanny state, as it accused the former Labour government, to being strong-arm state. One that is intolerant of dissent, that is contemptuous of the democratic process, and that wants to ensure that people have no opportunity or minimal opportunity to disagree with it. So it's prepared to criminalise legitimate protest on the high seas against the government's flawed economic agenda, which relies so heavily on exploitation of resources, and to cut across the whole tradition that's upheld in other international treaties of dissent and protest on the high seas. This is a bad bill. The Green Party is opposing it.
Mr Speaker.
I call the honourable member.
Thank you, Mr
Brendan
Speaker.
Horan.
I rise to oppose this third reading of the Crown's Minerals Amendment to the Amendment Bill.